We've been warning about this for a very long time. Donald Trump, from the beginning, has been an authoritarian, and he and his cohorts and his fascist Republican Party have every intention of turning the United States of America into an authoritarian state in which the minority party remains in power in perpetuity, no matter how badly they need to rig things in their favor. We see this unfolding in real time in both Los Angeles and now in Washington, D.C., where, let's not pull our punches here, Donald Trump is acting like a full-blown dictator. Yesterday, he announced his plans to forcibly take over Washington, D.C. Not a state, unfortunately, ordering the National Guard to converge on the city in order to begin a federal takeover of the government running the nation's capital. He hosted a long, typically rambling press conference during which he detailed his plans to take over the city and lied incessantly about crime in the District of Columbia. Take a look at his opening statements and his not-so-subtle threats.
And we're here for a very serious purpose, Something's out of control, but we're going to put it in control very quickly like we did on the southern border. I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back. Under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States, I'm officially invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that is? And placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control, and you'll be meeting the people that will be directly involved with that. In addition, I'm deploying the National Guard to help reestablish law, order, and public safety in Washington, D.C., and they're going to be allowed to do their job properly.
Somebody probably should have woken him up before he got in front of a camera. Okay. First of all, the President of the United States does have vast powers when it comes to this sort of thing, but there is literally no rationale for taking over D.C. in this hostile way. Donald, in the past, has referred to Washington, D.C. as a shithole city. But quite frankly, the only reason it is one is because he lives there. Most of the rationale behind this is, of course, that he's a racist piece of garbage who is flailing desperately and needs, in any way he can figure out how, or anyway, his minions can figure out how to accrue more power to himself, to protect himself from his inevitable downfall if he can't figure out a way, as I said earlier, to rig the system in order to keep himself in power. Donald has been citing increased crime and violence as the motivation behind this hostile takeover. He did the same thing in Los Angeles. He's making hints about New York City, but his claims are absolutely false. He's telling us egregious lies and making unfounded threats towards anybody, not who's a criminal or not even anybody he perceives to be a criminal, but who is against him, anybody who is disloyal to him, which thankfully is most of us. So that is why he is particularly targeting blue cities. I want to break down some of the lies he told during that press conference. So let's take a look at this.
The murder rate in Washington today is higher than that of Bogota, Colombia, Mexico City, some of the places that you hear about as being the worst places on earth, much higher. This is much higher. The number of car thefts has doubled over the past 5 years, and the number of carjackings has more than tripled. Murders in 2023 reached the highest rate probably ever. They say 25 years, but they don't know what that means because it just goes back 25 years. Can't be worse.
Yeah, well, it couldn't be if any of that were true. The story Donald wants to push is that crime is completely out of control in Washington, D.C. The data, of course, tell a completely different story. But as always, why let the facts get in the way of your narrative? According to crime figures published by Washington, D.C.'s Metropolitan Police, violent offenses fell after peaking in 2023. And in 2024, They hit their lowest level in 30 years. They are continuing to fall, according to preliminary data for 2025. Violent crime overall is down 26% this year compared to the same point in 2024. Robbery is down 28%, according to the MPDC. And despite Donald saying that murders were at the highest rate in recent years, the data once again tell us otherwise. Homicide rates actually dropped in 2024, and this year are down 12% from the same point last year, also according to the MPDC. Donald has called into question the validity of the MPDC's data, as violent crime is reported differently by the local police department and the FBI. But MPDC public data showed a 35% drop in violent crime for 2024, while the data from the FBI, although different, still showed a 9% drop. While these numbers, again, are not exactly the same, they tell a similar story. Violent crime is down. As I said, none of that, of course, fits Donald's preferred narrative. He's going to use lies, damn lies, and statistics to push the story he once told, which is that his takeover of DC is justified because it is such an out-of-control hellscape. And again, the best and simplest way to make DC a better city is for Donald and all of the little fascists surrounding him to get the fuck out of town. Finally, as if Donald's threats towards DC residents weren't bad enough, he also took the chance yesterday to threaten other so-called liberal cities that he thinks could benefit from an authoritarian takeover, as long, of course, as the authoritarian taking over is him. Take a look.
We have other cities that are very bad. New York has a problem. And then you have, of course, Baltimore and Oakland. We don't even mention that anymore. They're so far gone. We're not going to let it happen. We're not going to lose our cities over this. And this will go further. We're starting very strongly with D.C., and we're going to clean it up real quick, very quickly, as they say. And we're going to have the same thing here. But then I'm going to look at New York in a little while. Let's do this. Let's do this together. Let's see. It's going to go pretty quickly. And if we need to, we're going to do the same thing in Chicago, which is a disaster. We have a mayor there who's totally incompetent. He's an incompetent man. And we have an incompetent governor there. Pritzker's an incompetent. His family threw him out of the business, and he ran for governor. And now I understand he wants to be president. But I noticed he lost a little weight, so maybe he has a chance. You know, you never know what happens. But Pritzker's a gross incompetent guy, thrown out of the family business.
Yes, everybody not Donald Trump and a Democrat is, of course, grossly incompetent. I think it's often worth pausing for a second just to remind ourselves what a despicable human being Donald is, and how dangerous this all is. We can laugh about it because he's so laughable, but there is serious intent here. And it's backed by people who surround him who actually know how to manipulate the system to get what they want. There is going to be a domino effect unless governors like Pritzker stand up to this. I mean, quite frankly, I would love to see Donald go head to head with J.B. Pritzker. That will not end well for him. And, you know, just as a personal aside, my family's business would have been infinitely better off if they had kicked Donald out of it. But that is just water under the bridge, as they say. At the end of the day, all of this is happening because Donald is weak and desperate and grasping at straws. We need to see it in that context while still keeping an eye on just how dangerous this is if they continue to carry out these egregious misuses of power in cities like DC, New York, Chicago, etc. We can't let this happen. And we need to put pressure on blue state governors like Newsom, like Hochul, etc., to become the face of the resistance in this way. Another quick personal note, I'm a New Yorker. New York is one of the safest cities on the planet. It is one of the most diverse, and in my opinion, it is the greatest one. It is even greater because Donald no longer lives there. There is no way that Donald Trump will be allowed access to do the kinds of things in New York City that he is currently doing in Washington, D.C. It's also worth remembering this, Democrats, perhaps you should have made Washington, D.C. a state while you had the chance, because Washington, D.C. has a bigger population than states like Wyoming and Rhode Island. They deserve proper representation. And if D.C. were a state, this wouldn't be happening, or at least it wouldn't be happening in this way. So, in addition to paying attention to the problem at hand in the present, which we must resist at every opportunity, we also need to be planning ahead so the American people understand in a deep way that Democrats aren't just here to stop the onslaught of fascism and authoritarianism. They have a plan for the future that is going to benefit all of us.
Please take a second and like and share this video. It'd be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please follow us and give the show a 5-star rating, because it really does help other people find our content. Thanks.